Hello, this is Paranormal Girl, and today I'm going to talk about time travel proof, the mounting evidence of a broken timeline. Evidence of time travel is not something to be ignored. These periodic blips of stories, pictures, and artifacts are nothing less than blatant signs that our universe is in peril. The space-time continuum is breaking apart. 6 years ago, there was a first batch of evidence, a handful of photographs and video clips that many believe were proof that time travel not only existed, but that individuals from the future had already visited us. Some, it was claimed, had even journeyed back to ancient times. But they left footprints. Some dropped artifacts, out of place and out of time. Some were mistakenly caught on camera. Others deliberately shared knowledge of their strange voyages. In the years since, their numbers have only grown. Below, you'll find an overview continuously updated of new alleged time travel anomalies, as well as a few reflections on past evidence, stories, pictures, and clues the universe does indeed face a temporal crisis. Do you believe they're real? Only time will tell. The Time Traveller in 1917 photograph. It's an odd thing when something or someone doesn't quite fit in. At first you may not notice, but upon closer inspection the anomaly becomes clear. So in this case, with this seemingly ordinary photograph taken in 1917 in Canada, found in a 1974 book titled The Great History of Cape Scott, it shows a group of people sitting upon the rocks of a beach, but among the crowd is a man who appears suspiciously out of place. Many believe his clothes do not match those of the other beachgoers. Wearing a t-shirt, short, and a hairstyle that seems quite modern in comparison, the mysterious individual hits all the check boxes for a person displaced in time. In the photos, others even appear to look at him, perhaps in confusion. This particular time travel is known as the Surfer Dude. And if you look here, there's this man here that's looking shockingly at this stranger. This one here is staring at him. And yes, indeed, he's wearing a t-shirt and shorts and a floppy, modern, stylish hairdo. And yes, he does look very much out of place here. The Mummy's modern boots. Out of place artifacts are a curious phenomenon. When they're discovered, they may very well shake the foundations of what we previously thought to be true about human history and ancient civilizations. Many of these artifacts, while unusual, are still somewhat explainable, such as the Antikythera mechanism. Others, however, raise incredible questions. For some time now, many have wondered about the existence of the so-called Adidas mummy, the preserved body of a 30 to 40-year-old woman discovered in the Altai mountain region of Mongolia in 2016. She had been buried there for about 1,100 years. Those studying her found that she had likely died of a blow to the head. However, it was her feet that drew the most attention. She wore what looked uncannily like modern-day shoes, perhaps resembling a pair of snowboarding boots, as the Daily Mail mused in 2017. They were made of felt with splashes of bright red and knee length with leather soles. Their unique design, likened to the Adidas, led many questions, if perhaps the ancient Mongolian woman was in fact a time traveller. Perhaps even if the shoes themselves were not from current times. They were made or possibly inspired by someone from the future utilizing the same style. Among her other belongings was what archaeologists described as a beauty kit, including a mirror, a comb, and a knife. However, scientists brushed off any claims that she was a time traveller. though they did say the style of boots were very modern. If we go back here, yes, they do look like a pair of Adidas trainers, so to speak, and almost like ballet slippers as well. Very strange. Nikola Tesla's jump room. For years, Andrew Basiago has told the story of Project Pegasus, the alleged covert time travel initiative that was funded and maintained by the United States government throughout the 1960s and 70s. But perhaps the most interesting detail of his particular story is the existence of the so-called jump room. It was in this room that Basiago claimed participants, such as himself, performed their secretive time travel experiments. Built using designs by the late Nikola Tesla, recovered from his New York apartment shortly after his death, the room housed what some would call a teleportation machine. It consisted of a shimmering curtain made of radiant energy, a special and allegedly as yet undisclosed form of energy that is latent and pervasive throughout the cosmos. It is, if this story is to be believed, what makes time travel possible. The curtain stood between two elliptical booms, and by passing through it, a would-be time traveller could journey across vast distances and time itself. Beyond that, there are few other details about the mysterious jump room, and no physical proof remains. Did it really exist? The Time Slip Hotel, proof that even buildings time travel. It's not unusual to, on occasion, find yourself at what you might describe as a strange place, especially if you happen to be in a country you've never visited before. Two couples who vacationed to Spain in the late 1970s know this all too well. In fact, this story has become something of a time slip legend. In 1979, they were on their way to Spain, leaving England and venturing through France. While near Montelima, they decided to stop and search for a hotel. Their original choices were packed, but eventually they did find one, an odd place, an old 2-story building with the simple word hotel above the entrance. They got a room and stayed for the night. Despite everything seeming particularly old-fashioned, the bed was hard, the place didn't have a telephone, and there was no glass in the windows. Likely out of bemusement, they took a number of photographs. When they went down to the dining room the next morning, they had a chance to see the hotel's other customers. They looked strangely out of place, dressed in outmoded clothing, two in old uniforms, but strangest of all was the bill for their stay, 19 francs, far less than they had anticipated. All in all, it was somewhat a strange experience, but not unpleasant. They'd found a place to rest for the night and continued on their way to Spain, where they presumably had a decent time. It wasn't until they returned to France and looked for the hotel again that they knew something was truly amiss. The hotel didn't exist. This was a matter of the hotel simply shutting. This wasn't a matter of the hotel simply shutting down or being unable to find it again. It simply was not there. They even asked around in Montélimar, and no one had even heard of it. When they returned to England, the mystery deepened. Their photographs of the hotel were gone. Not only was there no proof that the hotel existed, but there was no proof that they'd ever been there at all. Their odd tale was later featured on an episode of the television series Strange But True. And I'll now talk about the time travel and teleportation experiments of Project Pegasus. It's been often mentioned, Project Pegasus, but we've never really talked about it at all. So sit back, relax, mix yourself a cool pan-galactic gargle blaster. Or don't, because I'm going to read this and you'll probably get the same effect. In 2004, Washington-based attorney Andrew D. Basiago began telling his story of a top-secret organization called Project Pegasus. Although he was only 7 years old at the time, Basiago claimed he had, from 1968 to 1972, participated in a number of bizarre experiments that took him on journeys through time, space, and potentially into parallel universes. Project Pegasus was the classified defense-related research and development program under the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, better known as DARPA or DARPA, in which the US defense technical community achieved time travel on behalf of the US government. The real Philadelphia experiment. Project Pegasus mission statement. The mission of Project Pegasus was to study the effects of time travel and teleportation on children, as well as to relay important information about past and future events to the US President, intelligence community, and military. According to Basiago, children were recruited specifically for their ability to adapt to the strains of moving between past, present, and future. But how? While Basiago claims that there were several time travel devices at work during these experiments, the majority of the temporal adventures can be attributed to our old friend Nikola Tesla. Documents allegedly retrieved from Tesla's New York City apartment after his death in January 1943 revealed the schematic for a teleportation machine. Using something Basiago calls radiant energy, the machine would form a shimmering curtain between two elliptical booms. Radiant energy is a form of energy that Tesla discovered that is latent and pervasive in the universe and has among its properties the capacity to bend time-space, said Andrew Basiago. Passing through this curtain of energy, Basiago would enter a vortal tunnel that would send him to his destination. The other teleportation devices including a plasma confinement chamber in New Jersey and a jump room in El Segundo in California. There was also some kind of holographic technology which allowed them to travel both physically and virtually. They aren't always safe, though, according to the Huffington Post. One of Basiago cohorts, Alfred Webb, recalls one instance in which a child returned from his temporal voyage before his legs, as he puts it. He was writhing in pain with just stumps where his legs had been. These bugs, according to Webb, had been ironed out in the 40 or so years since the experiments began. Through time and space. So where did Basiago travel during these experiments? Some of his voyages led him to the 1800s, and on one occasion he found himself at Gettysburg on November 19th, 1863, the day President Abraham Lincoln gave his famous Gettysburg Address. If you look here in this picture, there's a boy that is quite out of place and he's looking across. Now everyone else is wearing what appears to be fitting clothing, but this little boy isn't. He's wearing quite a baggy coat and footwear that looks very much too large for him. And this picture here, Andrew Basiago claims this is himself. As Basiago tells the story, he had been dressed up as a Union Bugle boy. However, he felt that his oversized shoes were drawing too much attention. So he wandered away from the crowd, only to be photographed, as you can see in the alleged photo that I just showed you, with the blue arrows added. I go into more detail about this particular photograph here. Basiago also traveled to the Ford Theater on the evening President Lincoln was assassinated. In fact, he did so multiple times, even running into himself twice, though he never actually witnessed the assassination. Each trip, he says, was slightly different than the last, leading Basiago to believe that it wasn't just time travel at work. He was being sent into a slightly different alternative realities on adjacent timelines. Finally, let's not forget Basiago's trip to Mars. In the 1980s, he utilized the aforementioned jump room to teleport to the Red Planet, with the express mission of acting as an ambassador to the Martian civilization, his fellow travelers. William Stillings and Barry Soetoro, who of those days goes by the name of President Barack Obama. During his escapades to the Red Planet, Basiago claims he encountered many extraordinary things, not the least of which was the towering dinosaurs, and what he described as humanoid scorpion men. Indeed, to hear Basiago tell it, Project Pegasus revealed Mars to be an extraordinary and dangerous place. The planetary impact of Project Pegasus. Today, the new Project Pegasus, led by Andrew de Basiago himself, is apparently campaigning for the United States government to publicly disclose its teleportation technology, which would benefit humanity as a whole, make transportation both on Earth and throughout the cosmos instantaneous and environment friendly, or something like that. At any rate, Basiago's story is far from over. While the Webbot's prediction in 2009 said that he would make a planetary impact as a government whistleblower, never really came to pass. He's got new plans. He intends to run for president of the United States, and he hopes to attempt this. He first attempted this in 2016. In 2016, Andrew de Basiago will be a candidate for the President of the United States under the banner Andy 2016, A Time for Truth. However, while he didn't succeed then, he's about to try again in 2020 with the promise of leading the American people into a bold new era of truth, reform, innovation, as great as they are great. So what are your thoughts on time travel? Do you think it actually is real? I think so, because Tesla actually did experiment with devices and time travel, and that was very evident. But as the great Stephen Hawking said, if time travel is possible, where are the tourists from the future?